A woman who truly desires you doesn't need to lay a hand on you. She doesn't need to touch your arm, lean in close, or make the first move. All it takes is a single word, perfectly placed, to reach beneath the surface and strip you bare on the inside. And when she does it, you feel it without even understanding why. You feel a pull, a shift inside you, but you don't immediately know how to respond. That is the invisible power of feminine desire, subtle, coded, impossible to recognize unless you've trained yourself to hear what is really being said. Most older men don't fail because they lack charm or because they lack experience. In fact, experience is the one thing they have plenty of. They fail because they cannot read the hidden language of a younger woman. She's not going to walk up and declare, "I like you." That would be too easy, too simple, too dull. It would strip the game of seduction of its mystery and thrill. Desire, at its core, is not about handing everything over. It's about leaving a trail of secrets, puzzles, and tests that only the right man can decipher. Think about it. If she just gave herself away from the start, the tension would vanish. The anticipation, the spark, the electricity of the unknown, it would all dissolve. And so, instead of clarity, she gives you riddles. She wraps her desire in innocence, in playful mockery, in casual teasing. She throws you lines that sound like jokes, harmless questions, or sarcastic remarks. But each one is carefully chosen, crafted as a test. And in that moment, she's waiting, watching, measuring. She wants to see how far you're willing to go, how much you truly understand, and whether you're the kind of man who notices what most men never do. If you can't read the code, if you miss the moment, it slips through your fingers. And once it's gone, it rarely comes back. Today, I'm going to open that door for you. I'm going to reveal the words, the exact subtle signals that women use when they want you, often without even realizing what they're confessing. There are 7 of them. 7 phrases that reveal more than she intends. But I must warn you, the 7th isn't just another clue. It's not just a signal that she desires you. It is an open door, a threshold into her most private longings. And if you're not ready to step through, if you're not prepared to carry the weight of what she's truly offering, then you're better off leaving that door closed. I'm Karen, and this is the Success Mindset. If you've ever doubted whether a woman wanted you, if you've ever spent nights replaying conversations in your head, wondering whether she was mocking you or flirting, testing you or dismissing you, then after today, you won't have to wonder anymore. You'll know. Have you ever had a woman look at you with that mixture of irony and mischief, her lips curved in a half smile, and then she says, "Do you always talk like this with everyone?" It sounds like a casual question, doesn't it? It sounds like curiosity, but it isn't. She isn't asking to learn about your habits. She isn't asking because she respects your social skills. She's asking because you've already touched something inside her, and she wants to know whether it's hers alone or whether you scatter that same magic on anyone who happens to cross your path. And that brings us to the first of the 7 signs. Do you always talk like this with everyone? That line isn't an accusation. It's not a compliment. It's a carefully disguised trap. She delivers it with a smile, with a tone that might sound lighthearted, but behind it is an unspoken challenge. What she really wants to know is simple. Are you the kind of man who knows how to draw distinctions? Are you capable of making her feel chosen, separate, unique? Or are you just another man seeking approval, scattering charm like crumbs in the wind? This moment is critical because the wrong reaction destroys everything. If you shrink down, justify yourself, or respond like a nervous teenager, you've already failed. If you rush to explain, no, I'm just polite with everyone, you've stepped into her trap. She doesn't want explanations. She wants strength. She wants a man who doesn't beg for validation but radiates certainty. Here's a truth most men don't want to admit. Often, a young woman is already attracted to you long before she utters a single word. She has already seen you, already felt something stir in her stomach, already wondered why her eyes keep finding you across the room. The line she throws at you isn't the beginning of attraction. It's the first time she allows it to peek through. But she can't let you know that too easily. She has to test whether your presence is real, whether what she felt was an accident, or whether you truly are what she suspects you might be. Picture it. You're at a gathering. You're not trying to impress anyone, not chasing validation. You're speaking with ease, with elegance, with a kind of grounded charm that doesn't scream for attention. She notices, she listens, and then she interrupts with that line. Do you always talk like this with everyone? That's her opening move. That's her test. She wants to see what you do when she pokes at your composure. She wants to see if her presence unsettles you, if her challenge cracks the surface, or if you remain unmoved, calm, unshaken. And in that moment, you have two choices. The first, shrink, explain yourself, diminish your presence. The second, smile, say nothing, and hold her gaze. Do you see the difference? Silence in that moment is more powerful than 1,000 words. By refusing to justify yourself, by meeting her eyes without a flicker of doubt, you're saying everything she needs to hear. No, I don't talk like this with everyone. I talk like this with you because you interest me. That silence flips the trap back on her. The blade she thought she was holding cuts her instead. Suddenly, she's the one questioning herself. Did she reveal more than she meant to? Did she betray a spark of jealousy over something that wasn't even hers to claim? That is the power of understanding hidden meaning. That is how you turn her test into a victory. And when you pass that first test, something shifts. She no longer sees you as just another man she can toy with. She begins to see you as a possibility. The ground beneath her feet changes, and though she may not admit it, her eyes will. But this is not the end. It is only the beginning. Because once that first spark is lit, the next phrase arrives, softer, less calculated, more revealing. And this brings us to the second key sign. A woman looks at you, her words trembling between honesty and disguise, and she says, "You make me feel weird, but I like it." This is no longer about games. This is not a test. This is a confession. That line, spoken with a mix of contradiction, is her heart stepping out of line. Women rarely admit when someone unsettles them, when someone touches them in ways they can't explain. That word weird, it doesn't mean rejection. It means raw attraction. It means her defenses are crumbling, her certainty unraveling. Psychologists have a name for this: emotional dissonance. It happens when two opposing impulses crash together. On one side, the logical mind insists she should want someone her own age, someone predictable, someone safe. On the other, her body and instincts betray her, pulling her toward you with a force she doesn't understand. That clash of logic and desire feels strange, unfamiliar, weird. But she likes it. She wants more of it. And here lies your power. A man who understands this dissonance doesn't panic. He doesn't rush to explain it away. He doesn't play therapist and say, "That's normal, don't worry." He embraces it. He holds it. He lets her chaos swirl while he remains the eye of the storm. Stoicism teaches serenity in the face of disorder, the mastery of one's own response rather than control of the external. That's exactly what you embody in this moment. When she says, "You make me feel weird," your silence and calm smile intensify her attraction. You don't flinch. You don't explain. You simply are. That contrast between her inner turmoil and your unshaken presence is irresistible. You're not there to calm her. You're there to ignite her. You're not there to ease her discomfort. You're there to make her feel something she has never felt before. That's what separates the man who merely attracts from the man who transforms. You've passed her first test, you've stirred her dissonance, and now the game moves deeper. She begins to speak in a language that reveals her body more than her logic. She begins to say things she doesn't fully understand. And that leads us to the third sign. With you, I feel safe, but also nervous. When a woman looks at you and says, "With you, I feel safe, but also nervous," she is no longer pretending. The mask of indifference has slipped. The playful teasing, the sarcastic tests, the calculated remarks, all of it begins to dissolve in this moment. What she is really confessing is that you stir two contradictory forces within her. On one hand, you represent safety, stability, and a grounded presence that makes her feel protected. On the other, you awaken something dangerous, a flutter of attraction that shakes her sense of control. To feel safe and nervous at the same time is the ultimate paradox, and it is the place where true desire begins to ignite. This is the threshold where flirtation turns into intimacy, where attraction deepens into something that feels unshakably real. At this point, many men make a mistake. They hear her confession, and instead of standing firm, they mirror her nervousness. They laugh awkwardly, they downplay her words, or they rush to explain why she feels that way. But the key here is not to match her turbulence. It is to contrast it. You must become the oak tree in the middle of the storm. She is wind, rain, thunder, and uncertainty. But you remain rooted, unmoved, unshaken. This contrast is magnetic, because what fascinates her is not that you are also nervous, but that you can hold her storm without losing yourself inside it. A younger man might tremble at her intensity, stumble over his words, or break eye contact. But you, if you understand your power, will stand calm, steady, and unflinching. That emotional strength is what keeps her orbiting around you, because it shows her that what she feels isn't too much for you to handle. This is why women fall in love not simply with what you say or do, but with how they feel in your presence. If she feels safe, her guard lowers. If she feels nervous, her desire grows. Put the two together, and you've created the perfect storm, one she cannot easily escape. Imagine walking beside her late at night, your pace unhurried, your voice steady. She stops, looks at you, and admits, "I don't know why, but with you I feel safe, and a little nervous too." In that instant, resist the urge to explain or overanalyze. Do not break the spell with needless commentary. Simply meet her eyes, stay silent, and let her emotions swirl around your grounded presence. That moment of charged silence is where attraction transforms into surrender. Which brings us to the fourth sign, one that may sound innocent but carries far deeper implications than most men realize. I've never talked like this with someone like you. On the surface, it appears to be a compliment, maybe even just a casual observation. But in reality, it is far more. It is a confession that the connection she feels with you is rare, different, and significant. She is telling you, in her own coded way, that you occupy a place no one else has reached. But here lies the danger. Many men destroy this moment by refusing to believe it. Years of rejection, failed relationships, or self-doubt creep in, and instead of accepting her words with calm confidence, they dismiss them. They say, "Oh, you probably say that to everyone." They crack a joke, or worse, they shrink in disbelief. What happens then? The fragile bubble of attraction she has built around you bursts. She feels foolish for lifting you up. She regrets her honesty. And she begins to pull away, not because the connection wasn't real, but because you failed to hold it. This is why insecurity is so destructive. It doesn't just show in your words, it shows in your inability to hold the emotional weight of her confession. When she tells you she has never talked like this with someone like you, she doesn't want jokes, explanations, or disclaimers. She wants you to simply exist in that truth, to nod, to smile slightly, to let your presence affirm what she feels. Because if you cannot believe in your own value, she cannot continue believing in it either. Attraction dies not when she loses interest, but when you demonstrate that you are incapable of holding the space her desire creates. The fifth sign arrives in the form of a deceptively simple question. What are you looking for in a woman? Do not be fooled. This is not curiosity. This is not small talk. This question only comes when she has already begun to imagine herself in your life. She asks it because she wants to know whether she could fit into your desire, whether she could be the one you are seeking. But here is where countless men betray themselves. Instead of answering with clarity, they answer with need. They bend their words to please her. They shape themselves to fit what they think she wants to hear. And in doing so, they lose her respect. Because desire is not built on neediness. It is built on respect. If your answer is vague, hesitant, or desperate, what you are telling her without saying it outright is that you have no standards, no direction, no backbone. You're willing to take any woman who will have you, and that kills attraction instantly. She may still enjoy your company. She may still find you charming. But deep desire, the kind that keeps her awake at night imagining you, will vanish. Why? Because deep down, a woman cannot desire a man who has no direction. The solution is simple, though not easy. You must answer her question from clarity, from strength, from your core. Not to impress her, not to please her, but to affirm who you are. Look her in the eye and say what you truly value. I'm looking for a woman who knows herself. A woman who can feel deeply and also respect deeply and then stop. Do not over-explain. Do not rush to justify. Let your truth hang in the air, because when you speak from your essence, she feels it. She doesn't need endless detail. She needs to feel that you are a man who cannot be swayed by approval. The sixth sign is perhaps the most dangerous, not because it is false, but because it is utterly real. I don't know why, but I feel like telling you everything. These words mean her defenses are gone. She is no longer measuring her words, no longer calculating how much to reveal. She has unconsciously opened the door to her inner world, and she is handing you the key. If you fail here, you close the door forever. The mistake most men make in this moment is switching into therapist mode. They listen too eagerly, they advise too much, they comfort too heavily. In their attempt to show support, they kill desire, because in that instant, she doesn't want solutions. She doesn't want to be fixed. She wants to feel safe enough to let her truth flow without judgment. She wants to know that her vulnerability doesn't scare you, that her raw honesty won't make you run. Your role here is not healer or savior. It is emotional witness, to hold space without invading it, to let her talk, to let her flow, without trying to control or redirect. When you do this, something profound happens. She begins to associate her vulnerability with your presence. She begins to imagine not only sharing her secrets with you, but also her body, her intimacy, her trust. Women open themselves fully, emotionally and physically, only when they feel they can surrender without fear. And if you provide that space, she will never forget how you made her feel. And finally, we arrive at the seventh sign, the one that reveals not only attraction but projection. Don't you think if we'd met earlier? This phrase is not about nostalgia. It is not a wistful thought. It is a revelation that she has already imagined you in her story. She has mentally placed you in her past, pictured what it would have been like to meet you in her earlier years, and wondered how her life might have been different with you in it. That is not small talk. It is an admission of deep desire. She has already brought you into her private world, even in her imagination. What she wants in this moment is not for you to play along sentimentally. She doesn't want you to sigh and say, yes, it would have been nice. What she craves is your presence now. She wants you to show her that the past doesn't matter because the present moment is richer, more alive, more electric than any fantasy could ever be. Look at her with intention. Let her see that you don't need to imagine the past because you are ready to live the now. That single shift turns her projection into reality. If you hesitate, if you dismiss her words as playful, you make her feel foolish for revealing such longing. And once a woman feels foolish in her vulnerability, she retreats, and she rarely returns. Now you've seen them all. The 7 signs, the subtle signals that women give when they want you. You've seen how they hide their attraction in tests, in contradictions, in questions that sound innocent but burn with desire underneath. You've seen how easy it is to ruin it with insecurity, over-explanation, or the desperate urge to please. And you've seen how powerful it is when a man stands in silence, in presence, in clarity. The truth is simple. If you fail to recognize these signs, you cannot claim ignorance. You cannot say, "I didn't notice. I thought she was just being nice number. She revealed it in her words. She laid it out for you." If you miss it, it's not because you didn't know. It's because you were too afraid to act. And fear, my friend, kills desire faster than anything. But if you learn to see, to hear, to feel, then you unlock a new level of connection. You stop being the man who begs for scraps of affection and become the man women test, confess to, and eventually surrender to. Because true seduction is not about chasing, not about proving, not about begging. It is about presence, direction, clarity. So now the choice is yours. You can go back to living blind, missing signals, doubting yourself, and wondering why women drift away. Or you can step into this truth, recognize the codes, and hold them with strength. Not for her, not for any woman, but for yourself. Because you deserve to stop questioning whether you're enough and start knowing it. You deserve to live from your truth, not from your fear. I'm Karen, and this is the Success Mindset. If what you've heard today opened your eyes, then let it change how you listen, how you watch, how you act. Desire isn't begged for. It's sparked, it's held, and it's lived. And once you understand that, once you learn to read her words for what they really are, you won't just attract women. You'll attract a life that finally feels alive.